Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, this evening, we're going to be looking at the recently concluded FA Cup final, where it was Man City who went ahead and took this one, another trophy in the bag, another step towards the treble. Joining me this evening to review this match, we have returned into the podcast, Leon.
Well, nice to be back, viewers and subscribers.
Yes, Leon, welcome back. And you're back from a defeat being a Man U fan. And unfortunately, Man U could not stop City from, collecting another trophy on the way to a possible treble. How did you see this game?
From the get-go, it was a tall order, to be honest. I think I predicted a win up 2 weeks back, but it was more hopeful than factual, But at the end of the day, just City was too much for Man United. I didn't think City even had a good game. It was just quality over Manchester United, and Manchester United needed a near perfect game and a clinical game to beat City in the FA Cup, and just didn't materialize. So, the better team won, in my opinion.
Yes, it's definitely hard to argue against that. From the gun, the fastest goal in FA Cup final history, coming after 13 seconds from a magnificent sublime strike by Gundogan. The goalkeeper was planted. He could not even make an attempt. It was like a snapshot out of nowhere. And, that's part of the quality which you speak of earlier. And from there, it's almost as if within the first minute, the game plan, all that preparation you have been doing in the weeks leading up went through the window.
Yeah,
You know, you,
I think when the match was started, I think I was loading up my stream and then I saw a notification. 1-0 down. I'm like, this doesn't seem well, but I think they fought back well, and I think overall City, as I said, all the preparations that Ten Hag prepared for this match went through the window after that goal, and I think they did well to like calm down, clear their heads, and get back in the game. I think so. It was I wouldn't say it's a good performance, but it wasn't a beating. Like, like
yes, definitely. Well, for me, for our viewers and subscribers who watch the preview, then they would have seen where I pretty much call this one spot on, down to the correct score of 2-1. And so said, so done, City in the process conceding for the first time in the FA Cup this year. And, as you said, Man U having gone down early, they responded well and managed to grab an equalizer, so at the half, that was a result that I think Ten Hag would have accepted, having gone behind so early, that the team was able to come back into the game and went into the halftime break, 1-1 apiece. But again, not long after the halftime break,
long
again,
enough.
City surged ahead. Another Gundogan volley from a corner, and it crept past the hair. Another the hair error, you could say, a fairly soft goal.
I heard I think it's Kasper Schmeichel, the legendary Manchester United keeper, said that I think for the second goal, the gear was at fault because he didn't even move. Normally, when when a keeper is facing a shot like that, two defenders, they normally would be on their toes, or normally you'd see them go the wrong way. You can call that down to anticipation because he didn't see where the ball, but he didn't move at all. He saw the ball late, and I guess his anticipation was off, and the ball just barely crept past him. But I think even for that goal, I think was an error on Man United's part because Gundogan, after that sublime finish in the first half, I think there's no way they should leave him out there to get that shut off. And I just think it was an error in there. Somebody should have closed him down way quicker to stop that shot from going in. And
Yes, definitely. You could see Gundogan just hanging out on the top of the 18 yards, a rehearsed play, something straight off the training ground where rather than putting the corner in the box, it was hit out to the top of the 18. And, that's exactly what they have prepared for in training, where just take on a shot. and anything can happen. Hit the target, there may be a deflection, there may be confusion in the box, and it worked out again perfectly. So it was definitely a disappointing goal to concede at that point. But again, to Man United's credit, they did manage, to put together a few chances, especially late in the game. I believe they hit the woodwork and forced a few saves from the City goalkeeper and put City under a bit of pressure towards the latter end of the game. But it was difficulty breaching that City rear guard.
Yeah, to be honest, for me, after that second goal went in, I just knew that it was kind of over because as during the match, as soon as that second goal went in, City slowed down the play tremendously, and we know that Manchester United is a counter-attacking team. So the faster the game plays, the better it's for them. And City just kept the ball circulated around their back and forced Manchester United to press them. And then even in the latter half of the second half, you can see that the players were winded. They, they, they couldn't get nowhere near the ball. And I think when you're down 1-0, when you reach the 80th minute, you're gonna throw the kitchen sink. So
Right,
you're
right.
expected to create a few chances,
Yes.
but those were really the only chances of note that Manchester United created. Manchester United did a fairly good job also to limit Manchester City to those because those two goals you can say they were low XG chances, and outside of that I can remember probably I think Haaland and De Bruyne with a one shot that they
Right.
are saved,
Or a half chance here or there.
but
But
outside of
usually, Leon, these finals are normally close, even though on paper, one of the team may have, a distinct advantage on paper. Usually when it comes to the field of play, finals tend to be very close. Other factors come into play, nerves, tactics. Teams tend to enter these games a bit cagey, not necessarily their usual open style. So, the one goal difference in terms of the final scoreline isn't very surprising, you know, and sometimes these things also boil down to the tactics employed by each team. Oftentimes, it's one team trying to stop the other and then hoping to, play on the counter or catch the other team from a set play or, some other moment of magic from individual players. And I could say that seemed to have been the tactics of Ten Hag by, putting in place that extra midfielder in the form of Fred. And you could say that tactic worked successfully to a large degree in that the sort of dominance and chance creation that we are used to from City was significantly limited. To, as you say, a few half chances there. I believe one from Haaland and a few others from Kevin De Bruyne, but nothing clear cut. No one-on-one chance where the keeper had to pull out some sort of magnificent save. It was just a case of chances being presented and the clinical finishing of Gundogan in particular just took the game away from United. And as you say, later in the game, the tactics would come into play where it's just a case of game management. And
uh,
again, City did that to some extent
I
to the
think
latter half of this one.
I think where tactics are of note. I think that Manchester United tactic. I saw that from like a month months away because once Anthony got injured, we
Right.
lacked an option for the left for the right
Oh,
wing,
so
and then
technically that tactic picked itself, you're saying then.
picked itself, and then
Mm,
Martial was ruled out with a hamstring injury
right, right.
before. So the only option would be Marcus again. City would be Marcus Rashford up front, and then Bruno would slot in on the right hand side, and then you'd have Fred in the middle and Eriksen and Ahmed. I think if we weren't faced with so many injuries, I don't think we'd see Eriksen at all. I
Mm,
think we'd see him as a substitute. I think we'd have Anthony on the right, Marshall up front,
Rashford.
and Rashford on the left, Bruno in the midfield, and Bruno, Fred, and Casemiro in the midfield to stop that City.
Okay.
But because of the injuries, we were forced to play Eriksen, and you could see that in the midfield, people are just ghosting past Eriksen when it comes down to
Lacking the legs
the
at this stage in his
yes.
career then.
And I think for me, it's all in hindsight, but I think I'd probably more like to go with a Scott McTominay instead of a Eriksen on that
Mm, and played the
starting
two
lineup.
defensive midfielders, so to speak.
Yes, because Fred, we know that Fred can provide some goal threat,
Right.
and we still have Bruno. on the right wing, and he'll tend to drift inside, and Fred could go on the outside. So I think that tactic picked itself, and then we didn't have any options on the bench, only Garnacho. While City, you saw City bringing on Foden, and then in the last part, they just bring on a couple defenders
to
to shore
lock
it
it
up.
up with
Yeah,
Laporte and the likes. Yeah, a credit must be given to Manu as well for really, what I would classify as a very sensational handball call. These days it's almost as if once the ball hit your hand, it's as if the referee is gonna call a penalty. What's it inside the box? And
yeah.
that was the case. I mean, Grealish knew nothing about that ball coming over
Mhm.
only for it to unfortunately hit his hand while suspended in mid-air. Referee ran to the VAR screen, and of course, a penalty was given. But credit to Manu for taking their chance. Bruno stepped up under pressure in a final and converted the PK, and that, when it happened, gave Man United some sort of a lifeline and brought the
Yeah.
game back to a level of equality. And of course, halftime came, which would have been a chance to adjust tactics, galvanize the troops and try to lay a game plan for the second half. And that seemed to have, Ten Hag seemed to have taken advantage of that, as mentioned. Clogged the midfield, very little penetration from the middle. But of course, City would usually dominate possession. And of course, the tactic of employing Stones as you could say a
Mid-
midfield, a holding midfielder seem to have been working in terms of United getting greater control of the game as well, and then playing with a back three once in possession. And
Yeah,
the keeper played, I think, a very critical role. That's Ortega in the City goal in terms of the build-up play from City. And, launching a few long balls when needed and with great accuracy as well compared to De Gea in the opposite goal. So as you say, it's a deserved win for City.
actually, deserve win. I think
One step closer to
for the
the treble
treble.
now, two from three, one to go, the big one, the Champions League. And you would be a brave man at this stage to really bet against City not winning that Champions League just based on how they are playing and the motivation as well that the players should have to go for it. None of these City players have ever won the Champions League under Guardiola at this stage, and it's the last game of the season. So there's really no holding back.
No cut up.
No cut
Yeah.
up. There's no need to rest players, etc. So it's all guns blazing for this one against Inter Milan. But how do you see it? What do you think of the prospects of a treble for City, Leon? Do you see Inter being able to stop them? Man U
I,
failed at this point. Man U had the opportunity to rewrite the history books.
I mean, when it comes down to Man United, I think it was always, I think it was always in City's favor. I think if Manchester United won that final, it would be a huge upset because the quality of the teams are just so far apart. As I said, I don't think City came out of second gear much in there. I don't think they had the best of games either. I just think that
Right.
in the end, the quality shows. I think even I saw like a point in the match where I think the ball was bouncing in the box and Fred had the chance to control it and turn and pass it out, and he didn't even control it properly. And with City technical players, it's a easy pass, get around the press, and I just think the quality was too much. And I think for the treble, I think a betting man would bet on them to win the treble. I think it's the best team in the world. They have the best striker in the world at the moment, and arguably the best midfielder also. And I think the machine is well oiled. I think they were a little bit rusty in the FA Cup final, but I think that final played an important part to get them ready for this Champions League. And as you said, it's the last game, so all focus should be there, and they haven't won it as yet, so they should be as hungry as ever. So,
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, that's the one blemish, as I said, the one trophy that has been eluding Pep since his entry into English football. And
since he left Barcelona,
right, this in itself presents the best opportunity to really silence the critics and, equal that historical record of winning, the treble, the Champions League, the English Premier League, and the FA Cup.
and I think
And
a fact also is that no team has ever like went to the Champions League and win it straight away. They always loses their first time to the final, and then on the
Mm.
second time they win it. So when it's based on facts, everything is lining up for City, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the law of averages also dictate that as well. This has been a few years now on since Inter themselves have been to a final.
It's
So,
from day
even
one
though the
against
ball is
Barca.
round, we can't really count out Inter. They have earned their spot, and I am sure their preparations are going well, and they are, razor-like focus as well. So, in a final, any card can play, and it will be interesting to see if Man City actually goes behind in this final and how they would respond, with the history, the pressure, and of course the narrative of not winning a Champions League. In a case like that, it would take a certain level of mental strength to really bounce back having gone behind and really come out victorious. So that would be very interesting. That would be a fascinating scenario. And in fact, if that was to take place and they went on to win, it would even be so much sweeter, to be honest, rather than to take it
And
clear
then
cut, let's say
clear
3
cut.
nil. 3 nil, just a stroll.
I think
It would
I
be an
think that
interesting test.
I think that dream is more of a supporter's dream than a manager's dream.
Mm.
Because I'm sure Pep would love that stroll in the park final, a quick 3-0,
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Who
instead of
wouldn't?
going behind and
I
even
guess I'm
possible
just speaking
penalties.
as a neutral, and
Yeah.
hoping that it will be an entertaining game
Yeah.
and not necessarily a predictable one, so to speak, but something with a few twists and turns here or there, something for the fans to really keen on come Saturday, because that one is taking place this Saturday coming up, probably the biggest match of the season, one could say, the Champions League final is always a spectacle. It always draws, a very wide audience from all over the world. And this year should be no difference. The City fan base is very global, and Inter is a long established team with a rich European history as well. So both fan bases should be out in their full capacity come Saturday. And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this one. It's the last one of the season, so to speak. After such, much of the games coming up will be international friendlies or international or FIFA competitions, such as the Gold Cup. So this one is the last piece of club football action for, I would say, what, 2 months? So, if you didn't watch any game all season, this is the one to really watch. So
I
I'm
mean,
definitely
when it
looking forward to it.
I mean, when it comes down to fan bases, I think I don't think City should have a problem pulling their section this one. I think if any match you're gonna turn up for as a supporter, I don't think Pep has to come out for this one and give a speech to the City fans. I think
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. I mean, this is what they've been clamoring for. This is why they signed Haaland. Haaland himself, I was watching an interview, made mention of that yes, City have been winning the English Premier League, but they brought him in to win the big one, to give them that extra edge, that extra dimension. And of course, speaking of Haaland, Haaland is on somewhat of a mini drought, Leon. He hasn't scored in the last four. What's going on? Should we be
that
worried?
that's that. That's that. I think I forgot who I was having the conversation with, and I told him that Haaland hasn't been in form for quite some time. But I think the beauty about City's team, you don't need Haaland in form. You just need
Mm,
a different option, and he provides that. He provides an out ball, as you saw for the first goal in the FA Cup. I think
right, right.
the initial header, I think Haaland was the one that won that.
Yes,
So
yes.
even though he's not on form, he provides a different option for City, and they can attack in a lot of ways, and they have a lot of gunmen, so to speak. You have De Bruyne who can come up with a goal. You have Silva, you have Gundogan, you have Grealish. So I think
Yeah, the fascinating thing I realize is that when compared to other teams that you would say play a more passing game, let's say a Liverpool or a Brighton, for example, what City has that I believe Liverpool or even Brighton somewhat suffers from is that threat from outside the box. That shot when the defense is, putting up two banks of four. So oftentimes you need a long range shooter to keep the defense honest, or hit one
yeah,
in from 18 yards, 20 yards, 19 yards out. And that's what City has. Rodri has a
Yeah, yeah.
powerful shot on him. Likewise, Kevin De Bruyne and well can really open up a defense which is long range shooting. And Liverpool and Brighton somewhat lack that ability. Very few goals have been scored from
Uh,
such ranges.
for Liverpool, I would say not so much. I think when Liverpool is in their pump, I think Trent has a good shot on him. I think Fabinho has scored some crackers in his day. I think
Yeah, but
Brighton is
not consistently.
that can.
They can come up with a shot here or there, but not on any consistent level for the defense to be really be worried. You take a player
Liver,
like Kevin De Bruyne, once you see him get on the ball right away, your instincts have to kick in. Don't give this man a shot.
I think Liverpool does more of their damages on the wing. So I think
Right,
instead of shooting, they're looking to cross. While
definitely.
City goes straight to
Through
the
the
midline,
middle, right.
and as soon as you give them an option in that midfield, it's bang. So I think
Yes.
and Liverpool midfield, I don't think had that quality. I think Henderson not every now and then maybe
Nah, Henderson doesn't really have
every,
that at all in his locker.
every now and
Fabinho
then,
every now and then, but
every
not
now and
on
then.
any
But
consistent basis. So,
yeah,
I think that's part of what Liverpool lacks in their midfield, that striker off the ball that can definitely be a threat from range on a consistent basis where defenders have to respect that shot, that plays a role as well in terms of opening up the defense, and not allowing the defense to really slack off and continue to clog that midfield area. So yeah, that is something I observed or have been observing from City throughout the season as well. That right away you know that the game plan oftentimes against City, you can't outpossess them. So what do you have? You're just gonna have to lock shop and hope that you can limit the number of chances they have. And oftentimes it's that long range shot which really propels them ahead. Rodri have scored a few crackers this season as well.
I think the
Kevin De
play.
Bruyne, as mentioned before,
Yeah,
not so much Haaland because I believe out of Haaland's is what 36 goal, only one has taken place outside the box.
I think the key for City this year is really Haaland. I think even before they had that long shot threat,
Right.
but I think the teams that were setting up, I think they prefer to let City have those shots
Mm,
and open up. But the difference with Haaland now, even when you pack that box, Haaland can outjump anybody. So I
right.
think I think that's the
Yeah,
really key.
he's a predator inside the 18 yards. That's the
And
best
it,
way to describe him. He's almost
and
like he smells where the ball is going to go and
and
positioning
when he was
himself there.
and when he was at Dortmund, he used to score a lot of goals outside of the box. But in this City team, he has no need for it. He just
That's true.
drop deep now and then, link the play, and just one burst into the box, and that's really his
Yeah,
style
that,
in the
that was
City
very
team.
evident in this FA Cup. I believe he
Yeah,
got that half chance on the left hand side where he came short, turned the defender left and blasted one, which narrowly went over the bar. So that was like a typical Haaland turn and shoot kind of a scenario. I'm sure Inter will be looking at this game in terms of their preparation and how to stop this man. But for me, it seemed like I would say of the teams I've seen played against City, I think Real Madrid had the best idea in terms of stopping Haaland, which was to pretty much man mark him with Rudiger. Rudiger was all
um,
over him like white on rice, like a paint on a wall, under his skin. He was everywhere where Haaland went, and for the most part, it really limited his influence. So City may, I mean, Inter may very well try to employ such a tactic, in terms of eliminating one of the known threats. And, fascinatingly enough, oftentimes it may be the defenses focus on Haaland so much that other players now become free to showcase their talents, such as a Gundogan. He's not really a big name player. He's not really those household names that you would hear of being called in the City 11, but he comes up with the goods year after year after year, especially it seems towards the latter end of the season. It seems like it's Gundogan time once the season is boiling down, and that could be part of the reason for that, where defense is zoning on the key threats and then, of course, someone is oftentimes left open, and it's almost as if it's the lesser of the names that's left open, and it ends up that these guys are the ones hurting you and winning trophies. You
But
know?
for the Rudiger versus Haaland, I think a lot of teams
Mm,
tries to the Rudiger way, but there's not a lot of teams with the quality of a Rudiger because Rudiger is when a defender is strong, maybe he lack speed, but Rudiger has both. So I think he was like a perfect match for Haaland in some sense, and I think for Inter, I think Inter plays with a three at the back for sure. So I think one of their defenders might have an eye for Haaland. But as you said, the key thing with City is that you can't just stop one player.
right.
It was the
Multiple
same with
threats all over the field. That
it
is
was
the
the
thing.
same
Quality everywhere.
it was the same with Pep Barcelona. You can't stop Messi, you can't stop Iniesta, you can't stop Xavi. You can't stop all their players at once, and it's the same thing for City.
Eto'o was a key cog in that team as
Yeah,
well for
you
for
could,
you know our younger listeners may not know of these names, but yeah,
he's
that was
one.
a magnificent team. They were the first team Pep used to win the treble. He did the same thing with Barcelona, winning the treble, the Copa del Rey, the La
Honestly,
Liga title, and of course the Champions League. And he's looking to repeat that feat again with City. So, definitely some interesting times ahead. And I'm definitely anticipating this one, this final one to pretty much put a wrap on the season. And it should be celebrations on the blue
uh,
side of Manchester come
Manchester for the
Saturday
season.
night. But
Hopefully,
Leon,
hopefully not. Hopefully not.
well, for sure, my money will be on City to do the treble. To be honest with you, I've been calling it all season. From I saw the sort of lethal focus that they started to develop. What 25, 24. They went on this run of what 25 games unbeaten, leading to the title. I saw that laser sharp focus, and I was like, many person are not talking about City for the treble, but I saw the part they had for the FA Cup, and I was like, there's not much obstacle in their way there. Champions League again, once they crossed the obstacle of Bayern and Real, then the writing was almost on the wall. So it won't come as a surprise to me per
If they
se.
win. Yeah.
It's just to go out there and execute. But final word from you, Leon, this FA Cup puts a wrap on the domestic season in England. What say you?
I mean, it was a good season, I think. And I think as a Manchester United supporter, I don't think I could have asked for a better season after that rough season that we had last season. I think Ten Hag did a wonderful job. I think he didn't get nominated for the Premier, the manager of the season, but I think he could have gotten a shout. I don't think he would have won it, but based on the job that he did, because a lot of people forgot that he had to deal with Cristiano Ronaldo in the situation.
Honorable mention.
He had to get out Maguire of the team, and still
Yeah, some very firm decisions had to be made, to be honest, and he seemed to have
uh,
managed his players well, not to cause a revolt or a riot in the locker room with these big name players.
and people
So,
forgot that we had a striker named Weghorst that hasn't scored a goal in the Premier League since we got him on loan.
yes,
I
yes,
think
yes. That
I
has been
think
one of the poorer signings of the season, it would seem.
I think it's not a poor sign. I think it was his quality. I think when he was at Burnley, he scored one goal. So I don't think it wasn't expected. It's just that the owners they didn't give him any money and he just had to use what he have been given. So I just think that a lot of people is overlooking the job that he did, and I think, as you said, the Zeri, wonderful job. Newcastle coach, wonderful job. It's just an
Eddie
exciting,
Howe.
yeah. It was just an exciting season, both relegation and top four. But man, it should be an interesting season next year with the resurgence of probably Liverpool getting the signing of McAllister today from done. So let's see.
Yes, yes. I just forgetting the transfer window is now, partially open where teams are positioning themselves for various summer signings. So, yeah, Liverpool definitely needed some reinforcement there in the midfield. And, the rumors have it that it will come in the form of McAllister from Brighton, the World Cup winner there. The killer of Man United with that 98-minute ice cold penalty kick I can recall from that game. So, Definitely some quality there from, and he's also young. Liverpool should be able to get the better years of his career there at Anfield and, replacing the outgoing likes of Naby Keita or Ox Chamberlain,
Milner.
Milner, etc. It's almost like it's a swap deal with Milner, it seems. Milner may have played a crucial role
Crucial.
in securing his signature there, So all these things are taking place in the background. We'll see how it goes. But for sure, it has definitely been a wonderful season. Definitely looking forward to see what signings are made during the summer and of course what will transpire in the upcoming season in August. But the viewers and subscribers, there you have it. It was a wonderful FA Cup weekend, but as usual, we move. And I just like to thank Leon for coming on board again and sharing his opinions and his thoughts. We look forward to another episode coming up on Thursday where we will preview the Champions League final. This one will be Inter Milan versus Manchester City. Manchester City, as you've heard it here, chasing that elusive treble and Inter Milan looking to really cement their place in Europe, where they haven't been to a Champions League final in many years. I believe the last time they won it was under Jose Mourinho with that great striker there, Melito, a really sublime team that our younger viewers may not have
It
heard
was
of,
well.
so Inter Milan do possess European pedigree, and we'll be looking to preview that one coming up on Thursday. But viewers and subscribers, I'd just like to thank you again for continuing to support the channel. Please continue to share and, of course, like. And if you see the need to comment, please do so and let us know your thoughts. Tell us, so who do you think will win the Champions League final? Give us a score. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.